I had a great start. By that I mean I was given two wonderful, loving, caring, faith-filled parents who loved me unconditionally. But I was also given a lot of love and some great tools to guide me and help me through the ups and downs of my life. My parents had very strong beliefs in what was right and what was wrong. They both had a strong faith in God. There was not a lot of gray area in my house. They had a strong moral compass. And I'm not sure what the truths and beliefs will be for you in your life, but I grew up knowing what was expected and what was not acceptable in my house. There were consequences to all of my actions. As I said, my parents had some strong core values that they gave to me. Core values like lying was wrong, stealing was wrong. They gave me lots of core values like cheating was unacceptable. Respect for your parents and adults, unless they showed you they didn't need your respect. God was the center of our lives and our family. Do your best in everything you do. If a job was worth doing, it's worth doing right. To quote my dad, when you work hard. When you play hard. Hard work and perseverance will be rewarded. Use the talents God gave you to make the world a better place. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, the golden rule. Be thoughtful and considerate of those who are less fortunate than you are, and share what you have. My parents were also willing to point out that some bad habits in others. As a form of education and how I chose to do those things, the price I was going to have to pay for my actions. Yes, they were also taught me about accountability. A lot of letters, big word, strong values. I was responsible for my actions, not everybody else's. I tended as a young person to blame others, blame the teacher, blame the police, blame my grandparents, blame the guys next door, blame. Well, that was incorrect. According to my parents, it meant that I was responsible to authority here and now, and that I would ultimately be accountable to God someday for my actions. That kind of love and support helped me stay on the right path most of the time. And when I ventured off that path, they were there. They helped me correct my actions and get back on the right path. To this day, I can hear my parents' voices with their support and love. Those are but a few of the early gifts I was given. They were shared and reinforced by most of the rest of my family, including the nuns that taught me at school, the priests that taught me in high school, my brothers, my friends, neighbors, my entire extended family. They were there and they were part of my life. A little small picture here that says Jim at 6 months old. Well, my name is James Patrick Dunn. I'm not really sure when I was scheduled to be born, stories about that, but I was born on March the 29th, 1944, to Patrick Edward Dunn and Mary Jane Broadbent Dunn. I was very small when I was born. In fact, I was under 5 pounds. You can see all of me now, about 140 pounds later. I was put in an incubator to help me survive the first few weeks of my life. I don't know if they even have incubators anymore. So my mom had to leave the hospital without me until I got over 5 pounds. My father used to tease me that when I was born, I weighed less than a 5-pound bag of sugar. Yep, I have a strong tie to my Irish heritage, which I'm very proud of, but I am an American of Irish heritage. However, my father assured me that as a proud American of Irish heritage, my first generation Irish American and my mother's roots came from the Foley, Ireland side of the family. In my generation, I am the first of two children, two boys. I am also the firstborn male of my generation. I was one to carry the Dunn family name. That was my heritage. I have two cousins who were females born before me, but I am the first male of all the Dunn family. That should be considered a privilege and a curse to carry the Dunn name. Nonetheless, as that male, I was favored by one living Irish grandmother as well as my aunts and uncles. It was a tradition, I guess, among the Irish and probably other ethnic groups to carry on the family name, the first male, and the bloodline. Be that as it may, I was born with that honor, I guess. I have a younger brother named Daniel, which I talked about earlier. Our family home, which wasn't a home, it was an apartment building in the city. We were located on the west side of Chicago, in what was known then as the Austin neighborhood. Not sure what it would be now. The closest hospital to our house was West Suburban Hospital, which was in Oak Park, Illinois, not Chicago. I was born there towards the end of World War II in a suburb of Chicago called Oak Park. Oak Park was a small, rather well-to-do community. I had no right to be there because my family was far from well-to-do. We were part of the emerging middle class at the time. I was part of the second generation of Irish immigrants who, through hard work, were beginning to get their share of the American dream, which is why my grandparents came here. My adult physical stature is somewhat small. I'm 5'6" and today I weigh about 145 pounds. My love of cookies makes that number fluctuate from time to time. My first home was an apartment on the west side of Chicago, specifically 5469 West Chicago Avenue. We lived up on the far right corner on the second floor of the building. My early years, I really don't recall much about my first 4 or 5 years. I'm guessing they were nice. From my pictures, I saw I was pretty much showered with lots of love. Again, going back to the first male. You see, although I was the third child born in my generation, I was the first boy. I have 2 older cousins. They are daughters of my Uncle Joe and Aunt Fran. They were Mary Frances and Eileen. So, the first boy in the family was pretty important. As I said, there were, after I was born, lots of boys in the Dunn clan. When I was born, we lived in the apartment building on the west side. We lived in the corner apartment. I remember there were lots of stairs going up to our apartment. And as a little kid, I like to sit on them and slide down the stairs on my butt. That was fun. My first school was only a few blocks away from where we lived. It was the Howe Elementary School, because it was close. I went there for only 1 year, for kindergarten, basically. It was close to our house, but it was a public school. And a Dunn child had, I'm telling you, to attend a Catholic school with the holy nuns teaching me. For first grade, I transferred to the Catholic school, Our Lady Help of Christians. We called it HOC for short. This was the closest Catholic school to our house, and it was very important to my parents, as well as to the rest of my Catholic family, that I attended Catholic school. There were Catholic nuns, members of the Order of the Blessed Virgin Mary, or BVMs, that taught me, or should I say, tried to teach me. As I mentioned earlier, 2 of my aunts were Catholic nuns, 2 of my dad's sisters. They were also members of the BVMs, although they did not teach at my school. However, that was good, I guess. Although I really liked my aunts, I don't know if I would have been good for them to have me as a student. The BVMs were a very strict group of ladies. They believed in learning and discipline. It was a general belief at the time that a child would receive a much better education in the Catholic schools than in the traditional public schools. In addition, as part of the school, the nuns should give you a crash if you misbehaved. You wouldn't get that in the public school. Not that I was ever a bad kid or that I ever got a crash, but I did. I had a few of them. Pretty soon I learned to stop misbehaving, so I stopped getting hit. My earliest recollection of my favorite direction for life, structure and discipline. And I raised my sons, your father, well, they heard that statement about 9 million times growing up. Structure and discipline. It's a secret. I enjoyed my first few years of school and was a very good student, as a matter of fact. I was always at the very top of my class. I was a good learner. I paid attention. And God blessed me with some pretty decent intelligence. I became active as a youngster in lots of different after-school activities. My mom pushed me to do that, to become more outgoing. I sang in the church choir. I loved to sing and had a beautiful, high cantor voice. I sang desk chant at many Christmas programs. I also served as an altar boy at church, where I assisted the priest. I joined the Cub Scouts, and in second or third grade, I enjoyed the challenges and learning opportunities the scouting program. I later went on to become a Boy Scout, where I did a lot of camping. I was very active as a Boy Scout. I acquired many merit badges, which is what you did as a Boy Scout, to raise in the ranks, and eventually rose to be the youth leader of my Boy Scout troop. I also earned the Ad Altari Dei Award, which was a very special award for only Catholic boys. Translated, Ad Altari Dei, to the altar of God. I was elected to the Order of the Arrow, a selected group of advanced scouts as I grew along. I worked my way up to earn the rank of Life Scout. Life Scout was only one level below Eagle, which was the very best, the highest award. To this day, one of my real regrets, and I'm lucky enough not to have too many of them, one of my real regrets is I never earned my Eagle badge. That would have carried me through life in a lot of situations, and I didn't do it. I was active in the Salvation Army Boys Club. The real test of my endurance came daily. We lived just about a mile from where I went to school. I'd help with Christians. I had to walk back and forth because I walked there into school in the morning. I came home for lunch, went back after lunch, and came home at the end of the day. So 4 times. For the first 2 years, my mom and little brother Dan would walk with me to make sure I was walking straight and didn't go in the street and things like that. Okay. Mom would pack a lunch for me every day, and I would stay at school quite often. Most of the kids get to go home, but because I lived so very far away, I couldn't do it. I thought that carrying a lunch was pretty cool, because I was one of the few kids that did it. You see, my mom made a sack lunch for my dad each day that he carried to us. So I was kind of like my dad, carrying my own little lunch bag. I was big time. This went on till about the 4th grade. Now, my Grandma S lived about 2 blocks from school, not the mile that I lived. Occasionally, she would have me stop over for lunch. She made the absolute best fried egg sandwiches in the whole wide world. She would make a fried egg sandwich on fresh white bread with mayonnaise. Oh. I would sit at the kitchen table. Grandma would serve Grandpa, Frank, and I, and we both have a wonderful lunch sitting together. I did get tired of staying at school all day, and my mom agreed to let me come home for lunch occasionally, for a hot lunch in the wintertime especially. The bad part was that I had to walk a mile. 4 miles a day in the rain or shine. As I mentioned, my family was very strong in the Catholic faith, so as a result, every Sunday we attended Mass together as a family. Mom, Dad, Dan, and I. As a student in a Catholic school, I also attended Mass with my class on many occasions. In the 2nd grade, that was about 7 or 8, I received my first Holy Communion, which was a big step in the growth of a Catholic child. This made me very special in that I now receive the host of Jesus Christ whenever I went to Mass. This also meant that there would be a party at my house, and I would get some gifts for receiving my First Communion. We lived in the second floor, as I mentioned. It was about 9 or 10 when my parents bought their first home, actual home of our own, and that was at 947 North Latrobe Avenue, still in Chicago, a few blocks from where the other place was. This was really big for my parents, owning their own home. Woo! Big step forward. This was funny. It was a big, old, 3-story house. My father bought it on the suggestion of a friend of his who was in the real estate business. It was a home that people rented. So we moved into the basement, which was very nice. It was fine. My father would call it my Irish penthouse. And my father rented out the second and the third floors to make income to help pay the rent. We only had one car at the time. Most families did, if they even had a car at all. My father rented out the other parts of the house. Plus, we had a 4-car garage, which was part of the property. My dad rented the other 3 spots so people would pay to keep their car in the garage. The whole thing was a great money-making opportunity for Mom and Dad, a money-making opportunity for a middle-class Irish American family. We were living large. Growing up had a rather specific daily schedule for me. We always had breakfast as a family and always had dinner about 5:30 when my father arrived home from work. Mom would make breakfast every morning. Didn't know what it would be. Sometimes it would be oatmeal, sometimes it would be cream of wheat, sometimes it would be eggs, sometimes it would be pancakes, lots of different things. But Mom made it. French toast was one of her favorites. We all sat around the table at night and talked about our day, our plans that were coming up, what we were doing for the weekend, what went on in school. The weekdays were mostly work and school. Weekdays were the time for fun. I had chores to do when I was growing up. I had lots of chores. Even when I was young, I always had to pitch in. That was part of, we all worked together, and it made the job easier for Mom. I had to make my bed. I learned how to do that. I had to help with the dishes, or maybe sweep the floor, or after dinner, or take out the garbage, or whatever kind of small chores had to be done, clean up the table. As I got older, I had to wash the dishes once or twice a week. There was no such thing as a dishwasher. I was the dishwasher. I also learned to vacuum the floor, clean my room, which I had to do all the time, and wash the windows sometimes. My mother taught me how to iron my clothes, because I like to have clean, fresh pressed pants with a nice crease in them. She taught me how to sew on a button when I lost one or popped one, and just various things like that. She also taught me the basics about cooking. Basics. You see, my parents always had their focus on preparing their sons to be able to stand on their own 2 feet to take care of themselves when they grew up. My father had many favorite sayings, one of which was, everything in its place and a place for everything. To this day, I still live by that. They tried their darndest to teach me neatness and organization, and they finally succeeded. To this day, I have to say I'm a very neat and organized person. I cannot stand messes. Disorganization, and it just makes me crazy. So it worked. It paid off. When I was 12 or 13, we moved into a new kind of place called a co-op. Today, we would call those condominiums, but they were really new and different back then. It was the forerunner of today's condominiums. So we sold the beach house and moved about a block away to 5211 West Augusta Boulevard. We lived on the second floor. This was a big place, much bigger than the other, and had a big kitchen and a huge family room. Boy, we were really living large now, man. I was only about 3 blocks from school, And most of my friends lived pretty much in the same neighborhood. I grew up in a neighborhood where most of us were Catholic. Many of us were Irish heritage or Italian heritage. That's pretty much what we had as our neighbors. We moved into the building when I was about 13. My brother and I had our own separate bedrooms with one single window. I'm sorry, we shared one single bedroom. Yes, sir.